Now, looking at the recovery and the way it has been moving, the earning is giving us a glimpse of what it was like with the fall before the economies started to reopen again. And the different types of recovery of which we are now very familiar here on Equestrian Business. We've talked about it often enough. You have the V-shaped recovery. I think to most intents and purposes, the V-shape is now sort of receding. People don't necessarily believe there will be a V-shape. Then you've got the W-shape, which could come with a second wave. We're down and then we're back up again. And then, of course, you have the Nike swoosh recovery, a very hard fall, a gradual return. If you have the reverse square root, then you've got a real problem. You've got a hard fall, some recovery, and then you basically plateau. Rich Lesser's with me, the CEO of the Boston Consulting Group. Rich, it's very good to have you with us. Thank you. Let's get in some sense, the easy bit out of the way. From where you're sitting at the moment, what does the recovery look like in terms of V, Ws, square roots? Give me an idea of what you think it's looking like.
So we've been discussing this since April, and I think we're on the path that we saw back then, which is once countries and communities started to reopen, it would be a long period and really a fight phase, we've called it, where you're fighting against the virus, which is at a constant risk of coming back. And that in general, we thought economic activity would certainly be better than in the flattened phase, but the how much better completely depends on the success in fighting the virus and keeping it down. And right now we're watching parts of the country and some other parts of the world that are really struggling. That's going to make the economic challenge much greater looking ahead. I don't think we're at the stage of a full W yet where you have to totally re-lock down the country again, but we are certainly at risk of seeing and already seeing parts of the country needing to come back down. It's going to have a major economic impact. It's going to be a drag on economic growth.
Which is why the blog that you published on the policies we need at the moment was so prescient, in the sense there aren't any policies in place. If I look at the United States, I'm now back in the UK, but if I look at the United States from afar, there is a dearth of joined up policies, and that must be giving something like BCG and your clients great cause for concern.
It does. And I think that we're at real risk right now. And really, we believe we need two kinds of policies right now to be able to have the virus not really take hold again of both health and the economy. Those are first, in general, better policies around mask wearing, around behaviors in society, avoiding large indoor gatherings. And that can apply to everyone as a way to, in general, suppress the virus. But then we need specific policies to protect the vulnerable. And I really want to highlight that. About 30% of adults are at particularly high risk due to age or serious underlying health conditions. And the 30% in that category are 20 times more likely to require hospitalization than generally healthy adults under the age of 50. And when you have a 20-to-1 disparity in health risk, then it just makes sense. It makes sense from a health point of view, a hospital capacity point of view, and a societal point of view from the economy to protect those individuals in every way we can. Distributing free masks, allowing them to shelter in place, focusing on congregate living facilities and doing everything we can to protect them, better sentinel testing. And so we need to step up our general actions, but we really need to double down on how we protect the vulnerable. Otherwise, our modeling says once you try to both reopen schools and business, the risk of outrunning ICU capacity in many parts of the country is quite severe.
Rich, the one thing I felt when I flew from New York to London, and I realized as I flew over different countries, this is global in the sense that wherever my plane might have landed, this is global. Now, as a global consulting group, you get a bigger picture on this. The United States is obviously lagging, but I wonder, is anybody doing particularly well other than arguably New Zealand?
Well, parts of Asia and Australia have done pretty well in general to get ahead of the disease. You look at Taiwan that got ahead of it right at the beginning. Korea and Japan have done pretty well. Australia has done well, even though there's a challenge in Melbourne right now. We're all we're all familiar with. So I think that and there are countries in Europe that are handling it well. But the key message here is there's no guarantees. Handling it well today is no guarantee that you'll be fine tomorrow. And the ability to stay vigilant, and not just vigilant for a couple weeks or a couple months, but potentially a year or more till we have a vaccine at scale, is going to require enormous discipline as well as alignment across the public, private, and social sector. And that's one of the things we're really missing in the U.S. right now.
Rich, I just briefly, because you just said something that was crucial. Do you believe we can stay the course? Yes, as you rightly say, having those early policies, yesterday's policies will not keep you safe tomorrow. But do you believe we do have what it takes to remain vigilant and to see this through? Because the evidence is against us so far.
Look, this is a challenge the world has never encountered before at this scale. The easiest way to get through it is to have been able to crush the virus. When you can crush it and take it down to super low levels, then it is easier to sustain monitoring the hotspots if you've got the right testing in place and the right procedures in place. The places that are far from that, including the U.S., but other parts of the world as well, it's going to be a battle. And unfortunately, I think societies need to go through, communities, not just society as a whole, bad stretches to realize how bad it can get before they're ready to maintain some of the vigilance. Even then, it won't be easy. And in all honesty, reopening schools plus business is going to be a real test. And I'm hoping our government leaders can step up to encourage the kind of behaviors and put the kind of testing and other elements in place that are essential to enable us to get through the next probably 9 to 18 months till we can have a vaccine at some scale.
I'm grateful for your honesty. Some might say brutal honesty, but that's probably what we needed to hear tonight. Thank you, Rich, joining me from BCG. Always good to have you on the programme.